Am I the a-hole for kicking my girlfriend out and potentially making her homeless after she came out to me? So I, male 25, have been dating this girl, female 23, for a year and a half. She lost her job due to COVID and didn't have any other place to go, so I asked her to move in with me even though my place is quite small. We've been growing a bit distant during the pandemic because I work long hours as the sole earner and she doesn't get to spend time with me. But my girlfriend has been spending this time with one of her friends, female 26, who happens to be bi. One day I was working an overnight shift and came back to my girlfriend waiting for me looking as if she'd been crying. I asked her what happened, and she told me that she slept with her friend last night while I was at work after having a few too many glasses of wine. She then told me that she's had feelings for girls since high school, but had always repressed them considering them to be abnormal. She then proceeded to tell me that she was now ready to come out of the closet. I had been listening patiently while she finished, despite being freaking furious on the inside. I told her that her coming out was great for her and I wished nothing but the best for her in the future, but she had to get out within the week. She then broke down crying again, saying that she didn't have any place to go and no money to pay rent. So I told her that wasn't my problem, and she needed to start looking. She cried, saying she thought I was her friend. Now I got mad and told her, "No, I was your boyfriend before you cheated on me. Now get the hell out and go stay with the friend she cheated on me with." She broke down again and went to the bathroom. I'll be removing her stuff after a week if she isn't out. I can do that. She's not a tenant. Not in the US. Spare me the lawsuit comments. Edit. She called me a bigot from the bathroom, which is why I made this post. And reading the comments made me realize how mad I really am. So she's gonna be out today. Now for the top comments. She cheated and somehow doesn't seem to recognize what that means for you. Because for her, it's so overshadowed by her realizing her own identity. No, you don't have to continue giving her a place to live. She should apologize for cheating too. Not today, Hall. She did apologize for cheating while coming out, but that means jack to me. I don't understand how people come out or want to transition, and their partner knows out because they didn't sign up for that, and then the person gets angry and mad at them for noping and says all kinds of nasty stuff about them or calling them names. No one has to do that if the relationship is no longer what either one wants or is comfortable with. Not today, Hall. I never understand why people expect sympathy for coming out after they cheat on their partner. Should have figured those feelings out before she wasted your time. Such a horrible thing to do to anyone. But even crappier considering you've fed and sheltered her in her time of need. You're better than me because I would have kicked her out as soon as she confessed. I may not be that much better. I'm seriously considering it. You told her to go to her friend's place. Why isn't she packing up and doing that? Her friend doesn't have a place to share. She lives in a youth hostel. Not today, Hall. She cheated on you. Period. You don't get to pass on cheating just because you're coming out. That doesn't make the partner feel any better or make it okay. She's a cheater, and you were being more than considerate giving her a week despite her leading you on, lying to you, throughout your relationship and cheating on you. I'm thinking of making that tonight after she called me a bigot from the bathroom. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the truth and exposing a web of lies my wife spun? My wife has been lying a lot lately. She is overly conscious of people's feelings, and she uses white lies to shift the blame onto others to lessen the blow of a situation, always to her benefit. She will find herself in situations where she wants to back out of weekend plans with her friends, or explain why she did something seemingly rude, etc. But she always blames me. My husband doesn't want me to leave this weekend, sorry, such an A. Or, I only screenshotted this conversation we had because my husband told me he wanted to see it. Sure, I can handle someone confronting me about that stuff far better than she can, as she has high anxiety when it comes to confrontation. But I'm really sick of being her scapegoat and letting people think I'm a selfish jerk. I was watching our kids this weekend while my wife hosted a bachelorette trip for her friend at my wife's aunt's lake house. Then last night, my wife calls me and says I can come over with the kids, rather than wait till early this morning like planned. I get to the lake house, and the girls are all still out at a bar somewhere, so I let myself in and put the kids to bed. Then my wife's aunt texts her after seeing me on her security camera and tells me she is upset that I was there. That's weird to me because she and I get along very well, and I'm even renting a house from her. She has really high anxiety, but she manages it well most of the time. She then texts me this morning and begins berating me about how I had no right to invite myself over, and that I'm a bad father. Naturally, I was shocked and asked her what she meant. Turns out, my wife texted her saying she didn't know I was coming, and that I'm an incompetent father, and she had to help me because I didn't know how to watch my own kids. I told her that that was not true, and that my wife invited me to come because she knew it was closer to my work, and I could sleep in rather than get up early to bring the kids. I, of course, confronted my wife about why she would lie about me and say things like that about me. She then gets mad and says she was doing damage control on the situation, and that it's far better if her aunt is mad at me than her. So now we're fighting because I, of course, don't appreciate being put in that situation, but my wife thinks it was a necessary sacrifice to keep her aunt happy with her. Not today, Hull. Hold up. You need a big wake-up call. Those are not white lies. This is not a small issue to be mulling over in AITA to blow off steam before returning to the status quo in your real life. Your wife badmouths and undermines you to seemingly everyone who matters in her life, to the point where they think you are a terrible father and husband. This is nefarious, dangerous, and outright inexcusable. It has already gotten to the point where she is way past believing her own lies, and the foundation is set where everyone in your mutual support network is against you. But how can you blame her family for being so ferociously against you, when it has been established that you are consistently behaving like a monster for months now? You could literally be one bad panic lie away from losing your kids or getting arrested for abuse. Look out for yourself. Think of your kids. Even for her to stop this now is not enough. This web of venomous lies needs to be reversed and burned to the root. Yes, that is a huge lie, not a white lie. She completely lied to everyone to get you in trouble. That is awful. She set you up for some reason. I think she's trying to find a way out of the relationship. She uses white lies to shift the blame onto others. That's not a white lie. That's just a lie. Not today, Hull. What are you doing in this relationship? It just started recently. At least I think it did. I've only just started to catch her doing it. Plus we have kids, so leaving is much harder. But I love her, of course. Not today, Hull. If this just started recently, you should be concerned that she is making an exit plan. Painting you as controlling and incompetent with your children may cost you custody and even significant visitation. Holy crap. I'm not sure therapy would even help, to be honest. She just sounds like an overall crappy, toxic person, and you need to get yourself and your poor kids away from her. I mean, damn, that's just messed up. Not today, Hull, but your wife sure is. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend I can't afford to feed his kids right now? I really need the unbiased opinion of internet strangers that accept any adult judgment. For context, my boyfriend 36 male and my son Didai 36 female live together, and for the moment, I'm the main breadwinner. Boyfriend pays his portion of the rent and then I pay for everything else. Food, utilities, my portion of the rent, fuel, basically everything else. And I have to budget like crazy to cover everything. I don't have a great salary, but better than his. He's working and bettering his situation, and I support us with an open heart. No resentment and no expectations on repayment. He has 2 kids from a previous relationship that visit us semi-regularly when he's off work. So on to the issue. Last week, he kind of sprung it on me that his kids were coming to stay the night. I asked him nicely to let me know a bit sooner next time so that I could work my money situation. I reworked some things to feed all of us, and everything is good. I made a load of pancakes. Then yesterday, he tells me they are coming again. I think that his ex is asking. And I ask if it's after I get paid. He says no, it's not. So I say as gently as I can that it's the end of the month, and I can't really afford 2 extra mouths right now, and I'm having to borrow to make ends meet for the week as it is. He blows up. Says he doesn't see his kids, and it's not my responsibility and he'll sell his car for money if he has to. I love him and I love his kids, but the reality of the situation is that I can literally not feed them 2 right now. I know it's just 2 kids and a few extra meals, but it's the reality of our situation, and one of the kids is a preteen that eats more than I do some days, and that's okay. Please bear in mind that boyfriend has no money at all for extra anything. Am I the a-hole for saying I'm not able to accommodate his kids right now? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You can't spend money you don't have. Pretty much sums up how I feel about it. There are no bad feelings towards anyone here, just facts. I can see why he'd feel angry and frustrated, just not angry and frustrated at you. This whole situation sucks. Nobody should be in this financial position. But it sounds to me like you're doing your best to help out when you can. I hope he realizes this once he's not feeling quite so immediately frustrated and disappointed. Not the a-hole. Quick question. If he acknowledges that they're not your responsibility, exactly why is he mad? It just seems like he and the children's mother want a bum off of you, / dump their kids in your lap whenever they want with no lip from you. That's not the kid's fault, but it's not your problem either. Worry about you and your baby. Budget for you and your baby. He's a grown man. What exactly does he budget for? You should seriously rethink whether or not you want the rest of your life to look like this. I don't think your boyfriend actually wants things to change. He seems just fine springing stuff on you, like you don't have enough to deal with by yourself. By the way, does he ever help you with your kid, or is he just piling things onto you with no help whatsoever, even when he doesn't have his kids? Pretty much everything is just up to me to figure out. He would be willing to help me with my kid, but my kid is mine and his dad's responsibility and I don't ask unless I have no other options. He has just finished his studies and is job hunting for the new field at the moment. He used to pay child support before he got the crappy job he has now. His car is also not working, so I take him to work and stuff. Why are you supporting him more than he's supporting you? He is dragging you down, and it sounds like he's making your life miserable. Can you get a new apartment without him? Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for giving my wife tough love about her weight gain? My wife has gained 100 pounds since we met. At the beginning of our relationship, we bonded over fitness, went to the gym together several times a week, and she was in great shape. She's 5'3" and went from 115 pounds to 215 plus. Most of her weight gain happening in the last 2 years since her father and sister both passed away, and she has been dealing with her grief and depression from that. I understand what she's been going through, but the toll it's taking on her is hard to watch. Her weight gain reached a breaking point for me a few months ago, and I just couldn't bite my tongue anymore. It was like the elephant in the room topic that we never talked about before, even though it was obvious she's been gaining weight. But I finally had to say something. It's much more than just about her appearance, but her health. We used to work out together, go hiking, swimming, etc., and no longer do any of that. So it's affecting our marriage in more ways than one. When I brought it up, I said I was concerned for her and felt I needed to say something. She broke down crying, saying she hasn't felt or looked like herself in years, and blamed it mainly on her grief from her dad and sister passing away. I told her I understand that, but she needs to prioritize both her physical and mental health and learn a better way to cope. She agreed to start grief counseling to start working through all this, and hopefully turn her health around. I felt like we had a good conversation, and it seemed like we were on the same page. But days later, she had vented to either her mom or best friend about what we talked about, and she approached me about it again, and said after talking about it with them, she realizes how unfair and harsh I was being and that she feels disrespected. I don't think I was being harsh at all, but approached her with love and support. I know weight is a sensitive issue, but how long was I supposed to ignore it for? It's been 4 days and she hasn't spoken to me since then because she said I need to apologize, but I don't think I need to. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Her weight gain reached a breaking point? Her intense grief and depression didn't concern you, but you reached a breaking point over her weight gain. How long were you supposed to ignore it? Forever, because you should have been more concerned about her depression, not her weight. Edit. Other reasons came to light through this. Your wife had a baby 6 months ago and is struggling with PPD on top of her other grief and depression about her family. You are home barely 5 days a week, and those are overnights, meaning your wife has the sole responsibility for your baby who since is 6 months old, most likely up a couple times a night. So your maybe 3 hours of active time being home, your wife must probably choose between a laundry list of things to do while she has your home, such as getting some sleep, spending time as a family, taking some time for her, and the like. You again said your breaking point was a couple months ago, so when she was, 4 months postpartum? Her weight should literally be so far off your mind right now it should be in outer space. OP, you should probably edit your post to add in all of the information about your wife without the vague, she's drastically gained weight. She went through 2 major traumas and a pregnancy, and now only has her husband home 3 hours a day, but somehow still has time to work out several times a week. Yes, you are doing it for the good of your family, but that takes nothing away from the fact that she's parenting alone while dealing with a severe grief, stress, and depression. And in all of that, you broached the subject by talking about her weight? You may not mean to be an a-hole. You might be a genuinely concerned husband who just don't understand, but my God, you're the a-hole. Not to mention that for the last year and a half, there had been a global pandemic. I can't begin to imagine the many added layers of stress the isolation and lack of normal support network not available during this time must have added to coping with her grief, pregnancy, and birth of her first child. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Edited to add that Opie didn't bother to mention she's also postpartum with a 6-month-old baby and is only home 3 hours a day. Your wife has suffered 2 huge losses, is obviously grieving and suffering depression, and thusly you think reducing her self-esteem is a great idea. You may want to seriously ask yourself whether you're doing anything verbally or emotionally to contribute to her depression and binging. Overeating can be an emotional reaction for many who turn to food to fulfill something that is missing or to cope with harsh criticism. You seem to think grief has a time limit as well. You claim to care about her health and mental status, but you've clearly caused her pain. You're more concerned with being right than her obvious distress. You went into the conversation not referencing concern for her depression or grief, but her weight. Sounds like you wouldn't care about either if she pursued grief counseling should she still weigh 115 pounds. It took 2 years to care, and only because her weight bothered you? So yes, you're the a-hole. More, I'd like to tell her to drop the real dead weight. You.
Update. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my wife and calling her crazy because she wants me to take a paternity test for my nephew? Original post. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and have been together for 14. We don't have kids. I have a 13-year-old nephew who looks a lot like me. We share some similar facial features. I'm really proud of him, and we've always had a close bond. I've played a father-like role in his life since he was young, especially since his own father is absent, and my sister divorced him a long time ago. Some family members have commented on how much my nephew resembles me, and at first, I thought it was just a nice observation. But for some reason, these comments started making my wife insecure and doubtful. She was questioning why I needed to play such a prominent role in my nephew's life, why my nephew had autism, etc. Her insinuations became uncomfortable and strange. I admit that my sister's dry humor might have contributed to my wife's insecurities. During family gatherings, my sister would joke about how nice it is that her son looks like me, saying she couldn't be happier. It was clearly meant as a joke, but I asked my sister to tone it down because it's affecting my wife. Last night, things escalated when my wife asked if I would take a paternity test to put her mind at ease. That's when I snapped and called her crazy, saying that marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. I regretted saying it immediately because it wasn't true. My wife is the love of my life. She went quiet and started crying, and I had to console her afterward. Was I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. She thinks you had a baby with your own sister? Not your brother's wife or anything, but your own sister. No, that is crazy. My oldest niece is a miniature version of me. Looks and attitude, lol. I have never once been accused of incest with my brother. OP, your wife is on some other level of insecure. You are not the a-hole at all. She needs therapy. It's genetics, and sometimes a niece or nephew can look just like that aunt or uncle. Like it's crazy to insinuate incest because he looks like his uncle. Does she not understand they are siblings and have similar genetics? 2 full-blood siblings share about 50% of their DNA. That means the odds of OP sharing significant features with his nephew are 1 in 4, which not rare. Sorry, but someone accuses me of sleeping with my sibling, I'm gonna say some kind of something to them. It won't be pretty. She doesn't get to cry and acts like she did nothing wrong. Not the a-hole. And love of your life or not, your wife thinks you slept with your sister. How do you come back from that? An accusation of ordinary cheating is bad enough for a marriage and can definitely justify some not-so-nice words. Throw incest into the mix and yeah, OP's wife is definitely in the wrong here. She needs to pull her head out of her behind and apologize, then probably seek therapy. Now for the update. Hey everyone, just a quick update. I've agreed to take the paternity test, but there are some conditions attached. I realize my wife is being paranoid and irrational, but I'm willing to take the test to help ease her fears. Sometimes, fears don't follow any logic. I've had my own irrational worries before. I talked to my sister today, and she was understandably upset with my wife. But after discussing it at length, my sister agreed to the test, provided we set some conditions. Later, I spoke to my wife and told her I was willing to take the test, but there were a few terms. My wife was relieved that I agreed and explained the conditions to her. The first was that she needed to stop making any insinuations or accusations immediately. She agreed right away. The second condition was that there would be no more arguments about me spending time with my sister and nephew. Over the years, we've had disagreements about why I spent so much time at their house. My wife agreed to this condition, though she took a little time to consider it. The third and final condition was that I would be free to go on vacations with my sister and nephew without my wife coming along. I told her up front that my sister doesn't want her to join us on these trips anymore. My wife hesitated a bit on this one, but she eventually agreed. That's probably my final update. Thanks everyone for the advice. This will clearly resolve everything. I give her 1 month before she claims you lied about the results or it's a false negative. The thing is, the test is going to show they're genetically linked because he is the kid's uncle, and that alone might be enough for her to be convinced he is the father, even when the percentages don't line up. This isn't a mentally stable person he's dealing with. Therapy should have been one of his conditions. I had the same thought. They're biological siblings. The test will come back that he and his nephew are related, and I can imagine OP's wife twisting it to say she was right. Lol, dude, it's not gonna matter what the test says. Your wife has an irrational delusion in her head and will go through whatever mental gymnastics she needs to justify it. The test is not going to help. If anything, it's going to get worse, especially based on the conditions you set. I told my sister this, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to look into divorce. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my kids back home with me from my parents' house after they violated the one simple rule I gave them? In March 2022, my parents reached out to me because they wanted to meet my daughters, Angela and Julianne, both 9, IVF twins. I agreed on the condition that they would not introduce my kids to my aunt's family. Growing up with my aunt's family was a nightmare. They were incredibly abusive and neglectful when I lived with them. To give you an idea, back in 1997, my aunt took my brother's asthma inhaler and refused to give it back because he wouldn't share his cookies with her daughter. This was a woman in her mid to late 20s doing this to a 7-year-old. I had my lawyer draft a contract outlining my terms. It wasn't legally binding, just symbolic, but it clearly stated that I would fly with my daughters from Seattle to Albuquerque for spring and summer breaks, provided that my aunt's family wouldn't be introduced to them or come near the property under any circumstances. I reserved the right to never bring my kids back if the rule was violated. My mom signed it and I planned a trip. Before leaving, I explained to my daughters who these people were and why I didn't like them. I told them to let me know if they met them. I treat my kids like they can understand things, and I always try to explain situations to them honestly. We made a flight down and arrived at my parents' home. But 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. Guess who it was? My aunt's family, standing around and laughing as if we've always gotten along. I turned to my mom and asked, "Why did you invite them?" "Mom, well, they're family." "Me, they're your family." Angela and Julianne were going home. Since the girls hadn't unpacked yet, they grabbed their things and I collected my belongings to leave. My mom broke down, begging me not to go, saying things like, "Really? You actually meant it?" And "I can't believe you." Meanwhile, my aunt's family started making judgmental comments, calling me ungrateful and trying to guilt trip me. If you've ever dealt with abusive people, you know they always resort to the same victim-blaming tactics. After that, I blocked my parents' and aunt's family on all platforms and instructed my kids to do the same. They've complied, but not before asking me for the latest new jeans merch, of course. 2 weeks ago, my brother came over and tried to reason with me. He spoke calmly, asking me to reconsider. I told him I gave them one rule, and they violated it within 2 hours of us being there. It's not just about the rule. It shows they don't respect me. They cared more about my aunt's family than they did about respecting my boundaries, which makes me question how much they really care about my kids if they were willing to break the agreement so quickly. It seems my mom has either forgiven or doesn't care enough about what we endured with those people to respect my boundaries. She seems to think I was bluffing, even though I made my rules clear. Your brother was the one she took the inhaler from, and he's going to bat for them? Jesus, he's in it deep too, huh? Not the a-hole. My brother is actually a very forgiving and loving person. He likes to see the good people and believes that people can change. I agree with him to an extent. Really, the only reason those people aren't messing with him is because he is older and has been overseas with the US military. Your brother is trauma bonded with your family. He is allowing himself to be used to manipulate you, and he refuses to see it. He is not forgiving and loving. He is a doormat. I really hate to consider that possibility. I reserve the right to never bring kids back here if you violate this one rule. She signed it and I planned a trip. Really? You actually meant it? That is the weakest reaction ever. Who goes through the trouble of having someone sign an agreement just for the fun of it? Why did she think you went to all that effort? At least she showed her true colors so early in the visit. If she had waited until the end, it could have caused real confusion for your children. They would have had, hopefully, good memories with Grandma, and then struggled to understand why Grandma did something wrong at the end. Instead, she broke the rule almost as soon as you arrived. And your kids could see that you take rule-breaking seriously. It's also a good thing that your aunt stayed true to her usual self, showing that she hasn't really changed, despite what your brother hoped. True change would have started with a sincere apology and a willingness to accept any terms given by the offended party. They just don't take me seriously. They think I'm still a kid in middle school who has childish complaints or something. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my parents after they pressured me to give up my autistic son for adoption? I, 32 female, am a single mom to my 7-year-old son who is on the autism spectrum. He is everything to me. I've been raising him mostly on my own since my divorce 3 years ago. My ex and I tried to make it work, but the stress of raising a special needs child took a toll, and he walked away. Now it's just me and my son. While it's not always easy, I wouldn't trade him for anything. But my parents don't see it the same way. Ever since my son's diagnosis, they've made comments implying that he is too much for me to handle. At first, it was more subtle, like you need a break or he must be exhausting. But recently, it's gotten worse. They've even suggested I should consider putting him up for adoption because they believe he is too much of a burden. The first time they said that, I was in shock and didn't know how to respond. I love my son with all my heart, and the idea that they see him as a problem that could be fixed through adoption made me sick. I tried to explain how hurtful their words were, but they wouldn't stop bringing it up. Every time we talked, they hinted that I was making things harder for myself by keeping him. They've said things like, "You're still young, you could have another chance at a normal life," as if my son isn't already my entire world. Things came to a head a couple of weeks ago when they actually sat me down and said they'd done research on homes for special needs kids, suggesting he could get better somewhere else. They've even said it would be better for everyone if I gave him up. I was absolutely furious. I told them they were cruel and heartless, and if they couldn't accept my son as part of our family, then they weren't part of our lives anymore. Since then, I've cut off all contact. My phone's been blowing up with messages from my parents and even other family members telling me I'm overreacting and that they were just trying to help. They're saying I'm being ungrateful and that I should think about how hard it is for them to see me struggling. Some relatives are even suggesting I should forgive them because they're my parents and only want what's best for me. But I can't get past what they said. My son isn't a burden, and he certainly isn't someone to give up just because life with him is more challenging. He's my child, my entire world. Now, I'm questioning myself. Am I being too harsh? Should I give them another chance because they're family? Or am I justified in cutting them off after what they said? Am I the a-hole? You are not the a-hole. Your parents' suggestion to give up your son is unacceptable. Your child's well-being is your priority and your right to defend him. Appreciate your support. I will always stand behind him. Always. As I stated in my first reply, I raised an ASD son and my daughter has 3 sons who are on various levels of the spectrum. I wouldn't trade any one of them for so-called normal boys. If your parents will not accept and love your son, you have no choice but to go no contact. Another Reddit case of time to cut off all these people and move somewhere else. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé to grow up and stop trying to put her anger and trauma on me? My brother Matt, 30 male, is engaged to Evelyn, 32 female. Matt is our parents' biological son, and I'm 25 female, their adopted daughter. We also have another biological sister and 2 more adopted brothers. Our parents fostered many kids and adopted some of us. I've always known I was adopted, as I was removed from an unsafe environment and didn't have any safe biological relatives. My biological family is small in terms of known members, and none of them are good people. I'm very grateful to have been adopted. I feel lucky to have found a family that embraced the fact that we weren't biologically connected but loved us just the same, without any shame. Each of us who were adopted has our own story. One of my brothers, for example, was orphaned, and his birth parents wanted him to find a family who would love and care for him, which he found with us. Matt's fiancée, Evelyn, was adopted as an infant and has a lot of complicated feelings about it. I understand why she feels this way, especially since her adoptive parents tried to erase her biological background, shamed her for being curious about it, and spoke negatively about her birth family. I don't think that was fair or right. However, Evelyn tends to push her feelings onto other adoptees, assuming we all feel the same as she does. She has made negative comments about my parents, accusing them of robbing 3 children of their rights to their biological family history and identity. She even suggested that I was brainwashed by CPS into believing that I was removed for safety reasons and had no safe biological relatives. For the record, all my known birth relatives have been in and out of prison, and I have verified this. She told me that I'm just traumatized and too afraid to admit that I was denied my real family. I explained to her that I don't feel that way, but she insisted that all adopted kids feel the same, claiming that adoptees are treated as products in the US. I told Matt that I couldn't handle this anymore, and that I would need to see him and Evelyn less if they didn't stop. Despite this, she keeps seeking me out. On Saturday, while she was at my parents' home, she tried to bring it up again. I couldn't stand her talking about my parents that way in their own home, so I snapped. I told her to grow up and accept that people can have different experiences and perspectives, and that only children think everyone should feel the same. I also said that she needed to stop projecting her anger and trauma onto me just because our experiences are different. Evelyn said I was being spiteful and throwing it in her face. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What does your brother do while she sits in your parents' home and talks smack about them? Do your parents know? He doesn't say anything in front of us. Our parents know. I didn't know it, but they were aware before too. They feel bad that her experience left her feeling as she does. Your parents are so good. You are not the a-hole. She should really seek therapy. I agree. I think that's why she's so explosive about the topic. She needs to talk about it because her feelings are so complicated and make her miserable with her anger and grief. Not a-hole. In advocacy spaces, there's a few golden rules. Things like, don't talk about us without us, as in don't represent us without letting us talk too. And a big one is, experiences may vary and I cannot talk for you because I haven't walked in your shoes, as in what you've experienced I cannot imagine, because I haven't lived your life. Evelyn is failing on both of those. Probably more. Has she got an adoption fetish? Is that why she's with your brother? How does he feel about all this nonsense? Not her, but the crap she's talking. And how will he reconcile this with having children with her? I think she has become so bitter about the flaws in the adoption system and the bad outcome she got that she can't accept there are people who have benefited from it too. I don't believe adoption is part of the reason she's with him because she found out about some of us being adopted months into their relationship. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend after he set me up for a loyalty test? I, 25 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28 male, for a year now. Our relationship has been amazing until one day he decided to put me through a loyalty test for a YouTube video. The entire test felt completely real. The whole time I didn't flirt and made it clear I had a boyfriend, despite the decoy's multiple advances. Then all of a sudden, the whole crew came out. My boyfriend in particular was smiling and happy. When the YouTuber told me that this was a loyalty test and that I had passed, I sat there confused and stayed silent. When my boyfriend tried to hug me, I pushed him away and walked off. I was completely shocked and humiliated. I knew this was going to be on YouTube, so I didn't want to react the way they probably wanted me to, yelling, crying, making a scene. I simply said, the relationship ended the minute you decided to put me on a loyalty test. My boyfriend tried to stop me, saying I was being dramatic and that I had no reason to be mad since I had passed. That just made me angrier, and all I wanted to do was go home. The next day he called, wanting to talk in private, which I agreed to. However, he had already told his friends, our mutual friends, and my own family about the situation. During our conversation, he would call them or pull up their text messages so they could back him up. They all said I was overreacting and that I should be happy because now that he knows I would never cheat, we can finally settle down and be together. Yes, I love him and had considered that in the future, but I felt completely invalidated. In my opinion, loyalty tests are a lose-lose. Either you cheat or you don't, but either way, it proves that your partner doesn't trust you. I was completely confused because I thought I had given him zero reason to doubt me. So, when I asked him why he did this, he admitted that it was only because his ex had cheated on him multiple times in the past with her coworkers. This meant he had lied, because he had told me their breakup was mutual and drama-free. Also, I never realized he had trust issues, because I'm such a homebody and work from home. Now that I recently got a new job and was leaving the house more and meeting new people, it put me in the same situations and settings his ex had been in. At the end of our conversation, he asked if we were breaking up, and I told him I needed space. That was 2 days ago, and I'm still being bombarded with people saying I'm being irrational for being mad about this. The only thing he has said in those 2 days was that, because I passed, I shouldn't even worry about the video coming out, since they only post the fails, as if that was my concern. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I need some outside opinions, because everyone around me is making me feel like I'm crazy for being upset. So, am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend over this? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your boyfriend went behind your back in a way that left you feeling deceived, used, and humiliated. These are the actions of an ex, so I'd recommend you just block him now. Any friends saying you're overreacting are his friends, not yours, and your family need to learn what respect is. Honestly, needed that. The worst part is that he's extremely close with my family, so even though we have only dated for 1 year, I've known him for so long. My mom especially is taking his side, so blocking him just isn't enough apparently. I would have told him he failed my loyalty test, but we can only hope to be that badass in the moment of deceit. Yep, it's great that I passed, but you didn't. Not the a-hole. He didn't just loyalty test you, he arranged to have it filmed so you could be humiliated, because it's still humiliating even if you pass. Not only that, but he is weaponizing friends and family to harass you about this. He's making it clear he feels very comfortable making everyone else have input on your relationship, and that their opinions matter more than yours does. What happens when the two of you disagree about the wedding arrangements, or home buying, or kids? He has done so much instead of just having a conversation with you. At every stage of this, he involved others instead of just having a conversation with you. He is definitely taking control and leaving her with no space or say in their matters. He for sure doesn't care for her feelings. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my girlfriend bring her dead dog's ashes on vacation? Original post. My girlfriend, 29 female, and I, 28 male, have been together for 4 months. She had a dog that died a few months before we met. I have only ever spent the night at her place. I live with my sister and her 2 kids, so it's a little chaotic at my place. My girlfriend has a small 2 to 3 inches tall urn on her bedside table with the dog's ashes. Before she turns off her lamp to go to sleep, she always gives it a little tap on the top and says, "Good night," as though she's talking to the dog. I think it's weird, but I have never said anything. We were supposed to go away for the weekend. On Friday, I was watching her pack and noticed she took the urn and put it in the top pocket of her backpack. I asked what she was doing. She said she didn't want to leave the dog behind. I told her she was not allowed to bring the urn, as it made me very uncomfortable. I didn't want to see it anytime we returned to our hotel room. I didn't want her talking to her dead dog after we'd had sex. That is, before we go to sleep. It's weird, and frankly, she's been mourning this dog for too long. She didn't argue. She simply started to unpack her bag. She told me to have fun on the weekend getaway, as she would not be coming. I asked if she was seriously choosing a dog's ashes over me. She said she was choosing herself over me, as I could have spoken to her with kindness and empathy but didn't. She also said that I didn't get to dictate how long she was allowed to grieve. Then she asked me to leave. She hasn't replied to my texts. I think she's overreacting. My sister said she can see both of our sides. Am I an a-hole for thinking my girlfriend is weird for being so attached to her dead dog's ashes? Edit. The hotel was non-refundable and only a 3-hour drive, so I went on the trip without her. Edit 2. She started seeing a psychologist around the same time we started dating. She hasn't told me any specifics, but she said the trauma of suddenly losing her dog brought to the surface other trauma from her past. This is why I think she has been mourning for too long. She is still attached to the dog, even after seeing a professional on a regular basis for several months. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. She didn't argue. She simply started to unpack her bag. She told me to have fun on the weekend getaway, as she would not be coming. I asked if she was seriously choosing a dog's ashes over me. She said she was choosing herself over me, as I could have spoken to her with kindness and empathy but didn't. She also said that I didn't get to dictate how long she was allowed to grieve. Then she asked me to leave. Your girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend most likely, sounds amazing. I wish she were my friend because she sounds like an awesome person to know. Sounds like you lost that privilege by being an a-hole. You're the a-hole. Everything she said was 1000% correct. I don't even have anything to add because she spoke for herself so clearly. The fact that you still don't get it shows you have a fundamental problem actually hearing her. Read and reread what she said until you get it. Edit. You do realize your second edit makes it worse, right? She's working with a psychologist. She's going at a pace that's healthy and comfortable for her, and she has a professional to help her with that. You don't get to decide what's too long for anyone else's trauma or grief. How dare you think otherwise? If you can't keep yourself from butting into her personal affairs like this, then you aren't ready for a real relationship. This. Girlfriend was totally right that she was choosing herself over him, as she should have. What an a-hole. A simple compromise would be, hey, can I get you a necklace so that you can take a small part of him everywhere? Or something, so you don't have to take the whole urn and everything. Her dead dog is still protecting her from bad people in her life. Good on him. He had to have been an amazing pet to her to still protect her in spirit. She is grieving, and you cannot control her. Please let her go so she can find someone who respects her. You're the a-hole. This brought tears to my eyes. Karma is real, and her beautiful late friend is showing her signs to get her on the right path. They never leave your side. They just change how they are looking out for you after some years. It's probably all in my head, but sometimes I swear I can feel my soul boy's presence all of a sudden when I need and miss him most. Now for the updates, and I'm sure this will make a lot of you happy. I get it, I'm an a-hole. I texted my girlfriend to say I'm sorry for how I spoke to her and for dismissing her feelings. It was wrong. I also said I would like to apologize in person and offered to bring over her favorite takeout. She said, "All good. Don't worry about an in-person apology. I gathered the things you've left at my house. Let me know when you would like to come pick them up." I'm hoping she will still hear me out when I go to her place. To those of you DMing me who think I'm not the a-hole but won't post a public comment due to the risk of being downvoted, please stop. That is cowardly. To those saying my girlfriend is a lunatic, a sociopath, unhinged, a trauma dumper, has endless emotional baggage, in need of a mental institution, etc., please stop that too. While myself and others may not understand what she is going through, that doesn't automatically make her mentally unstable. She has a good heart and a good head on her shoulders. Name-calling is unnecessary and borderline crueler than I was. Final update. I shared this post with her, thinking it might help her see that I was wrong and am owning it, and maybe it would open the door to a discussion. That blew up in my face. I probably should have deleted some of the questionable comments I made in this thread. She texted to say, "Your things are now in a garbage bag on the porch. Pick them up sooner than later so they aren't stolen. Goodbye, OP. Please respect my wishes and don't text me anymore." Next story. Am I the a-hole for banning my husband from all doctor appointments after he repeatedly messes with me while I'm pregnant? So, I'm currently pregnant, about 6 months along, and my husband has been doing this thing every time we go to a doctor's appointment. He'll drive me to the appointment. Then when I'm about to get in the car, he drives forward a little, then reverses, then drives forward again. He does this a few times and it always frustrates me. He thinks it's hilarious and says he's just messing with me. I started to get really frustrated. I'm already dealing with the physical and emotional toll of pregnancy, and this just feels like him poking fun at me when I'm already tired and stressed. I told him it bothers me, but he just brushed it off and said I'm overreacting, and that he's just having fun. We had a big fight about it the other day. I tried to explain how it's making me feel, and he got defensive, saying I need to lighten up and that it's just a joke. I told him it wasn't funny anymore and that it wasn't something I wanted to deal with during my pregnancy. The final straw was when he did it again before a doctor's appointment yesterday, and I was just done. I ended up calling my mom to take me instead and told my husband he was banned from all future appointments. Well, now he's furious. He's demanding to be there for the next appointment because it's the one where we'll find out the baby's gender. He says this is a huge moment and that I'm being unfair by not letting him come. I told him I need him to respect my boundaries, and this is one of the ways I'm doing that. But he keeps insisting that it's just a silly little thing, and now he's calling me unreasonable for making a big deal out of it. Am I overreacting here? Don't let him go. Tell him it's a boy. Not really, it's a girl. No, it's a boy, but it's actually a girl, even though it's really a boy. Then tell him to lighten up because it's funny. Not the a-hole. Why do people date or marry just utter pieces of crap? Seriously do that, and do it for at least a week or so. And then when he demands you stop, you can tell him it's just a harmless joke. And to get over it, it's no big deal. Be sure to tell the doctor's office they are not to tell him if he calls about the gender results. It's your body after all. Not the a-hole. He doesn't respect your very reasonable boundary. His emotional intelligence needs some work. Also, jokes involving a vehicle and a pregnancy are not funny. That's just scary. Excellently stated. I think that's just about the kindest way to put what we've all been thinking. His emotional intelligence needs some work. Lots better than "grow the F up, dude" that the rest of us were imagining shouting into his face. This guy is not mature enough to be having a kid. Not the a-hole. And is the door open? This could cause the door to shut on OP or knock her down. And if she gets knocked down while he's doing this, it could end up with OP hurt. And as bad enough as this is with a pregnant woman who may not be able to see her own feet and whose balance is off, it will be worse if he does this when she's holding a newborn or when the kid is a toddler. Last story. Am I the a-hole for leaking fake baby names to family? My husband and I are expecting our first child, and we did something to have some fun with annoying family members who wanted to name our child for us. The issue started a week after we announced the pregnancy, and some relatives on either side began suggesting names. Then a few members of our families, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, my aunt and uncle, and my 2 sisters, decided we'd name a daughter Elizabeth or Cassandra, and a son William or Patrick. We told our families we weren't taking name suggestions and to stop acting like they could tell us what to name our child. We were told the names mentioned were good, solid names and would prevent any weird, tragic names that people these days choose. My husband came up with the idea to have some fun with names and start leaking names we wouldn't use. This meant commenting on random Facebook posts with a name and acting like we were going to use that, or photoshopping photos with baby items that had other names on them, stuff like that. We used some out there names. One my husband even heard from TikTok, Cutley. Another was Dicky. Sprite was another. It annoyed the relatives it was intended to. But then another relative spoke up and was like, why would they waste money on stuff with a name if they change it a week later? And then the relatives realized. They were like, why would you do it? And we told them they were annoying us, and we were having some fun since they were so insistent on the names. They said it was childish. My husband pointed out that they were the ones who childishly believed they could name our child for us. Other family members found it hilarious. But are we the a-holes for doing this? Not the a-hole. This is peak petty and I respect it. The fact that they got so invested in your baby's name that they fell for Cutley is sending me. You set a boundary. They ignored it. And you had some harmless fun in response. If they got that invested, that's on them. Please tell me someone spent actual cash money on customized Cutley merch. No, but there was a family group chat set up where they freaked out over it. My husband got sent some screenshots from it and had lots of fun with the comments implying it was the name we chose. He even shared the TikTok that inspired that fun choice and was acting like people were haters for all the negative comments it got. Then the group chat exploded thinking it was his choice and wondering if they could convince me not to. Not the a-hole. My mother was also very opinionated, and we officially went with Hubertus Maria until our son was born. But we both went into the hospital with our favorite names and decided after he was born on the legal name. I considered throwing some Sims 2 names into the mix, but didn't want to make it too obvious we weren't serious. Euthanasia and Rigor Mortis are adorable boy names, honestly, LMAO. I used to tell people that if it was a boy, we were naming him Thor Alabasis, and if it was a girl, it would be Thorinda May. That way we could still call her Thor. I have an incredible poker face, by the way, and this was in the late 1980s.